Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to a crossover episode of the Pat Mayo Experience and the DFS Edge podcast presented by Jägermeister. Give your beer a real shot this summer with an ice cold shot. Jägermeister, get it in you. Adam Levitan's on the line. Adam Kaufman is on the line. Guys, we're going through all the top ADPs for 2018 fantasy football. We've already hit on the top 24-ish, the first two rounds of the draft. Now we're going into round 3. You can check the description if you want to find all the audio links of where to subscribe to the podcast. Give the episode a like. Leave some comments on guys you think might be overvalued as well. Plus, you can find the links to the previous shows in there as well. So get on that right away. Levy, what are your thoughts here on the next few tiers of rounds? Like, when you approach your draft, what are you looking for in terms of like round 3, round 4 picks? Are they just solidifying what you've done in the first 2 rounds? So if you've gone running back, do you have to go receiver? Or are you fine with like a running back start?
I'm hoping that the people in my league are just utter dolts and they start taking quarterback. I mean, that's all I'm really hoping for. I'm hoping they start taking Aaron Rodgers. I'm hoping they start taking Tom Brady and stuff like that. In terms of my strategy, I'm often looking best player available. I think that when you get into a lot of the pigeonholing with positions, you run into a lot of problems. And people seem to be very excited about this year's running back class. I mean, of the 24 guys we talked about on the first 2 shows of this, it seems like, I don't even know how many, a ton of them were running backs. So it seems to me that going zero RB or focusing on value at the wide receiver position, even as we get through these middle rounds, would make a lot of sense.
Koff, in our like industry drafts, we do like quarterbacks start going off the board like round 5. Everyone waits till like the 13th round. In leagues like you play with your buddies in, like is Aaron Rodgers going in the first round?
Maybe not the first round, definitely about the second round. There's no question that it's on the earlier end, absolutely. But I am curious what Levy just said. As far as drafting based on position or best guy available, when you take a look at that, when you're kind of having that debate, does where you fall in that first round or whatever round we're in, obviously, does where you fall draft position, but maybe you got the second pick of the round, maybe you got the 15th, does that impact the thinking as well? Because like we know, it's not removing yourself from the elite of the elite. Sure, they're at another level, running back, receiver, tight end, even to a certain degree quarterback, but when you get beyond that, a lot of guys can kind of even out with one another, whereas you don't want to go like an entire round where you miss the boat on the QB, but then everybody else starts taking one, and that's when you wind up with like Eli Manning.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think position runs are scary, and that's why I think it's typically better to draft in the middle of the round than it is on one of the ends, because you don't get stuck in one of those position runs. But I certainly wouldn't be worried about a position run at quarterback this year. I mean, I could name you like 17 guys that I'd be okay with at quarterback this year. So I wouldn't be worried about that. But yeah, I think looking at drafting based in tiers makes a lot of sense. And when you get towards the end of a tier, it's important to be in that range. So yeah, I think going into a draft, instead of being like, here's just my board, here's my board based on tiers, makes a lot more sense to me.
What about Mayo? I mean, like in past shows, first couple shows, we've done the first couple of rounds, talked about where ideally you'd like to get a guy, especially that first round with the premier running backs. And you've said, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd like to be in those top few slots. You can get the guy that you want or not make a tough decision. Somebody falls to you. Levy, you just said you'd like to be in the middle of the round. I think we all know if you've participated in drafts, you don't always get a freaking choice anyway, right? I mean, sometimes the names are just picked right out of a hat. How are you putting yourself in the position that you want to be in? I mean, you trying to work trades right out of the gate?
No, not really. I mean, you kind of have to play the cards that have been dealt to you. If you get a chance to pick, I do think that the third pick is the pick that you end up wanting to get. Fourth pick is really good. I think like pick 8 is number good. We talked about DeAndre Hopkins. He's probably the 5th player on my board. I can probably get him at 8. So then I can pick in the middle of the round in terms of a 12-team draft. So that picking in the middle, like Levy said, is a lot easier. When you're on the turn and you have the back-to-back picks, you kind of have to reach on guys that you like because you have no idea if they're going to drop back to you. At least if you're in the middle of the round, or even like you say with pick 8, like you can get almost, 8 picks in between you or 10 picks in between you before it gets back. Like you can have a gauge and look at the board and be like, all right, well, this guy isn't going to make it. This guy isn't going to make it. But here are 3 guys that could make it back to me. Do I have to take one now or can I wait? I think it's easier to do something like that than when you're picking on the turn and there's just 24 picks before you pick again.
All right, let's dive a little bit more into round 3. I mean, that's kind of the point of this particular show, because if you, again, missed our earlier shows, go back, listen, enjoy them. The very first one was those premier guys and, round 1 especially. Second show focused more into latter part of round 1, final few picks, of that first round, and then, of course, all of round 2. But as we get here, guys, into round 3, here's some of the names based on ADP that is out there right now, and it's a little bit fluid, doesn't change dramatically, but percentage points, a little bit fluid, can evolve between here and mid-June to where you go in August, obviously. But as you look at it, right here, picks 25 to 36. Rob Gronkowski, someone that we talked about at the end of round 2, he's moved into round 3. We don't have to spend any time on him. Then you go Jordan Howard, Doug Baldwin, Adam Thielen, Josh Gordon, so a bunch of receivers, obviously. Travis Kelce, so you invite another tight end to that conversation. Tyreek Hill, Larry Fitzgerald, T.Y. Hilton, Derrick Henry, Stefan Diggs, and Rashaad Penny. That is the group that, based on ADP, we're looking at here in round 3 and talking about on this specific show. So, Levy, from that specific selection of guys, still no quarterbacks, as alluded to before by Mayo. You've got just the one other tight end, and then it's still kind of trying to pile up receivers and running backs. So anybody from that group that stands out?
Yeah, I know Pat talked about Doug Baldwin on the last show. I like that call a lot. Certainly Paul Richardson gone, Jimmy Graham gone. Defense deteriorating sets up really well for Doug Baldwin. I'll let him talk more about that. A lot of these guys scare me. I mean, I like Adam Thielen. I just think he's a very good player. I think Stefan Diggs is a really good player, kind of a bet on talent situation. But a lot of these guys scare me. Rashaad Penny, I think, will be pushed harder by Chris Carson than people realize. Derrick Henry, I think, will be pushed harder by Dion Lewis. Then people realize Larry Fitzgerald is going to find an age cliff at some point. So, I think, there's reason for concern. T.Y. Hilton would be an awesome pick if we knew Andrew Luck was going to be healthy. I think there's some concerns, though, with all these guys. But then again, that's why they're in the third or fourth round. So I think that Travis Kelce is one that would stick out to me from a tier basis, as I already talked about. We know the drop-off after Gronk, Kelce, Ertz at the tight end position is pretty severe. So I would prioritize, especially in shallower leagues where I'm confident I can have really good running backs and wide receivers. I would prioritize in shallower leagues getting one of those top 3 in the first tier.
Mayo, you want to shower your affection all over Doug Baldwin there?
Yeah, I've kind of hit on it before, and I think this just plays into how you expect the game flow, how it's going to work for Seattle this year versus previous years, and the potential market share that Doug Baldwin can inherit just by simply still being on the field and them having to throw so much. Hey, you can have Penny, and I agree with Levy. I think that Chris Carson's not a bad guy to take towards the end of drafts just because people have written him off because the Seahawks went and got a running back in the first round. It doesn't always work out that way. They're probably going to play who's better, or at least who's a better pass catcher. And in that situation, CJ Prosites could find himself back on the field for like 2 games before he gets injured. But with Baldwin, I think he could push a 30% market share here. There's just really no one around. We know Tyler Lockett's like fast, but that's really about it. Someone could emerge beyond Doug Baldwin, but the way that I look at it, he should be on the tier up. I think that Thielen's a part of this too. Those are the 2 guys from around here that I'd be okay getting one of these guys. If I was picking, let's say I had the first pick and then it got back to me in the 3rd round, I take whoever I take at the end of the 2nd round. And if one of these 2 guys are here, that's probably who I'm going to end up taking.
So are you also then a little bit scared of the guys that we mentioned in this round, like Levy?
Yeah, I mean, the big one I think we need to talk about, because no one can really figure it out, is Josh Gordon. People love him, or people are just completely off board with him. And I can't really get a good gauge on where he's at. It's gotten to the point now where, you look at Twitter and people are like, oh, he's too ripped. He can't be any good. It's like, what are you talking about? this offense should be widely improved. The one problem is, and I think he might fall into a Tyreek Hill situation. I think he's better than Tyreek Hill, but they just have so many goddamn guys that it's going to be hard to figure out. Like, if you're trusting Josh Gordon to be your wide receiver one, if you went running back, Josh Gordon, like, he might not be good. He might be the best receiver. Probably not going to be the best receiver. He could be a top 10 receiver, or he could be like the 45th receiver. And he just might be incredibly volatile week to week. Like, Josh Gordon's someone I want to play on DraftKings. I don't know if I want to have him on my season-long team, and that pains me because I love Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
Is it? Well, go ahead, Levy.
I mean, no gamble, no future, man. If you want to bet on a guy who could, as Mayo said, be a first-round type of talent, first-round kind of numbers, Josh Gordon certainly fits the bill. I don't think maybe there's as much competition as you think once they move on. Or, I mean, they really seem to not like Corey Coleman. So maybe they don't cut him. Maybe they don't trade him. But I'd be surprised if Corey Coleman was a big factor this year. They seem to not use David Njoku in the right way, even though they should be using David Njoku a ton. So, yeah, maybe not as much competition as we think on Josh Gordon, but yeah, certainly some risk there. But I love kind of gambling in the mid rounds. Like, if you gave me a chance to take Larry Fitzgerald or Josh Gordon at the same place, I would take Josh Gordon every single time. Like, have some balls, you know what I mean?
Well, I think between Josh Gordon and T.Y. Hilton are sort of on the same tier of risk that you go into. Like, the Gordon situation, you're trusting Cleveland's offense. And are there too many mouths? I think that there could be. Obviously, you don't. I think that Corey Coleman's going to end up playing somewhere on the outside, potentially taking away targets. You'd think in year two, Njoku does something. And for whatever reason, they're bringing Duke Johnson back as well, despite having all the running backs at this point. Maybe he and Jarvis Landry both somehow figure out a way to play the slot. There's just a lot of targets to go around. And I know that Tyrod had a lot of success throwing to Sammy Watkins deep downfield, and that could be the role that Gordon plays. I agree. Ton of upside. But the same thing with T.Y. Hilton, and that's all based on Andrew Luck. And at least I've seen Andrew Luck throw like a 3-yard pass this season. That's way better than I saw last season. So let's say Luck comes back and he is, 80% of Luck or 85% of Luck. At least in Indianapolis, they're going to be throwing, and they really have no one else to throw to who can actually catch outside of T.Y. Hilton. So the upside, if Luck is healthy, might be better from a week-to-week perspective with T.Y. Hilton than it might be with Josh Gordon. He might not have the same absolute ceiling, but I think he has a better chance of overperforming of where he's going on a weekly basis.
Levy, you mentioned before, a couple of the guys that you think are sort of the safe ones in this round based on the names that I read off, and those are the two guys in Minnesota, Diggs and Thielen. And, I almost wonder, and you guys tell me what you think, but it's, at least on paper and statistically, it should be a better situation there for them this year than it was last year with the addition of Kirk Cousins versus, having to rely upon sort of a little bit of back and forth last year. You just have more pure talent at that position in this offense. And now Dalvin Cook comes back theoretically. And so I know that can maybe impact the amount of yards that are getting spread around based on what they do in the run game. But isn't it possible those two guys, or at least one of them, maybe more likely Thielen, is a little undervalued the way we're talking about him right now, just based on getting Cousins?
Yeah, just good at football, Like, I think both Adam Thielen and Steph Diggs are just really good football players in a good scheme with a good quarterback, in a really competent offense that's going to have a lot of red zone opportunities. Like, you just can't say bad things, I don't think, about Diggs or Thielen at all. So if there was just one of them there, I think you would see the other one go in the second round or even early second round. But with both of them there, it kind of pushes them down. People are kind of afraid to pull the trigger, but I think there's enough to go around. And yeah, I think third round sounds about right when you do it from a projection basis, but there's certainly an upside here, especially if one of them gets hurt.
I think you just go with the guy who's going later. I really like Thielen. Like I said, Baldwin and Thielen would sort of be on a little tier of their own, but I don't think that Diggs is that far behind. And if you can get him 10 picks later, I'd be more willing to take Baldwin at the turn and then see if Diggs might potentially drop. It might not happen and I might miss out on him, but between the two, I would just go value hunting and take the guy who's going later.
So this group, Mayo's 7 receivers of the 12 guys. There are a couple of running backs there on the back end. Rashaad Penny, Derrick Henry, a far steep drop, I think, compared to the other backs, obviously, that we've spent time on in the first couple of rounds. But still, when you start to look at depth and you're looking at your, RB2, RB3 situation, your flex position, if you're starting to get into that kind of territory, how are you viewing these guys?
I like Collins the best of them. Like, I don't know what's going on with Guice. Everyone, now there's again, there's Twitter clips of him just vaulting people, so that's only going to push up his stock. People love a good rookie. Rookies in this range are kind of tough for me because like Chris Thompson's going to come back in Washington. How much of the receiving game is he going to get? They drafted Samaje Perine, who was not good last season, but just because someone's not good doesn't mean bad coaching staffs don't still play them. It happens all the time. So I just think with Alex Collins, the way that we've seen everything shake down in Baltimore, it looks like he's just going to be the guy. Like, and two guys that we kind of skipped over were Mixon and Howard at the very top of this tier of where they're going. Like, I don't see a reason why Alex Collins isn't on those guys' tier at least.
Yeah, I think the concern is in the Ravens offense people are worried about. And, Alex Collins did average, I believe it was like 17 touches per game over the last half of the year, which is certainly puts him in a place to beat his ADP here if that continues. But we'll see. I mean, I have worries about Baltimore's offense as a whole. And just Alex Collins is never going to be sexy. I don't think his ADP will rise at all. And he certainly could be a value. I do like him better than Guice, just a better pass catcher. And Pat mentioned Chris Thompson. I mean, Chris Thompson is a straight baller. I mean, like last year before Alvin Kamara started going absolutely berserk, like Chris Thompson was just going berserk in that pass catching role and doing things like, scoring 25 DK points on 8 touches and just driving me out of my mind. They're not going to go away from Chris Thompson. He's going to be the 4-minute back. He's going to be the no huddle back. He's going to be the third down back. And that would concern me when trying to take Derrius Guice.
What point in a season-long draft do you guys start to pay attention to bye weeks? When is that actually relevant to you?
I never actually look at it. So if all my guys have the same bye week, great. That means I'm just dominating the other 15 weeks. I'll take the loss.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's so unpredictable. I mean, if you look at your end of year roster versus the roster you drafted, you might have like 3 of the same guys. So I really wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, I think
so
that
you're a heavy guy then.
I mean, it's just like there's so many injuries. I mean, this is like the most barbaric sport ever. Everybody is just hurt or like dead all the time. Like you just can't even like think about it. So the chances that you're going to have a full roster of guys that you drafted is just crazy.
I think it makes more sense to start looking at bye weeks. Like if you play in a 2-quarterback league with 12 teams and you have to draft 3 quarterbacks, like, hey, having the sub-in quarterback not be on the same bye week as one of your starters when you desperately need 2 quarterbacks, if you can project that far out, I guess you would start looking at things like that. But in just a regular PPR 12-team league, like, I just don't concern yourself.
There'll be times I don't even draft a single quarterback, let alone a backup quarterback. So you're asking the wrong guy.
I wanted to throw this out to Levy here. The 2 guys I did mention, Mixon and Howard, I don't understand why they're being drafted so close to like the Freemans, McCoy, Jerick McKinnon, and Christian McCaffrey. Like Mixon, I guess in an ideal world, he plays all the snaps, does all the pass catching, does all the running, but he just didn't look good last year. And I don't know how good Cincinnati's offense is really going to be and how much I want to trust anyone outside of AJ Green. And with Jordan Howard, yeah, Nagy's there, but like the guy can't catch. He has hands of absolute stone. So if we're talking PPR, I don't even know if I get it for a standard league because I don't know how often he's going to be on the field. Doesn't he just seem like he's being wildly overdrafted?
Yeah, I would agree with you that neither of them would excite me much. I could make an argument for both. Number one, the offensive line in Cincinnati last year was among the worst in the league. They have made additions. There should be improved. And then it's just a bet on talent situation with Joe Mixon, who, if he didn't have the off-field issues, which are absurd off-field issues, but if he didn't have them, he probably would have been a top 10, top 15 pick just based on talent alone in the real draft when he came out. And then on Jordan Howard, I mean, everybody thinks that the Bears offense is going to go full Rams on us, that would be the model. They get the coaching change. They go from John Fox, the moron, to Matt Nagy, who knows what he's doing, just like the Rams did when they went away from Fisher. So Jordan Howard has been allegedly working on his pass catching in the offseason. Who knows how much that's going to translate. But, I think a best case scenario is Jordan Howard plays the Kareem Hunt role, which, as we discussed on the first episode of this series, is not an every down role. So, yeah, I would agree with you that they both seem a little bit overvalued to me, but those would be the cases for them.
And Derrick Henry's right there, too. He's like ADP number 34. Like when there was no Dion Lewis, it seemed really fun with Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. But like, do you just wait and take Dion Lewis if you want one of the Titans backs?
Yeah, Dion Lewis is a baller, man. I mean, I know Kaufman can't wait to talk right now. He's like fully aroused, a former Patriot. But Dion Lewis has just been a total baller. And yeah, I think it's a huge blow to Derrick Henry. You know, people think Dion Lewis can't run outside. That is just can't run inside. That is just not true whatsoever. Derrick Henry is a beast, but there's no way Dion Lewis doesn't force his way onto the field for at least half of the work.
Yeah, you love Lewis. Do you think he's going to fit in Tennessee, Koff?
You know, he's not going to go there and be a 1,000-yard rusher. Like, these guys are going to have to virtually split time, provided full health, which you can never count on with a running back, or like Levy said, in this league when guys are always laid up anyway. But, you know, I think if I were to sort of guess right now, I think he's going to be more missed in New England than he's going to be a great fit in Tennessee. I think, you know, it's sort of for him. You know, I think he left a very good situation to take the payday, and I would never begrudge him for doing that. But I don't think that he's going to put up these crazy numbers there, and not in that offense anyway.
It's tough. The way that I look at it is I'm going to take the value if I'm going to take him, and I would think that if one of them gets involved in the passing game, it would be Dion Lewis. But I kept thinking that last year with New England, and it never really surfaced itself. It was just like, hey.
Well, that's because that was Rex Burkhead's thing and James White's thing, and so Dion Lewis didn't have to do it.
Yeah, I get that, but like maybe that when they bring in Dion Lewis, like I just don't understand what the point of bringing him in. Like Levy, like what's the point of having Dion Lewis and Derrick Henry in your backfield? Is it just Titans mismanagement?
I don't think so. I think that just having good football players, you know, and they had a ton of cap space and they spent it. I mean, I think the Titans are going to be really improved, and it would shock me if both of them made it through the year healthy anyways. So I don't really have a huge problem with it.
All right, I guess the other two are like with Rashaad Penny. Do you have like real Chris Carson concerns? Because I actually do.
Yeah, Chris Carson earned the starting job last year out of nowhere. No one was giving him a chance. 7th round rookie comes in, beats out Eddie Lacy, beats out CJ Prosise, beats out all these guys that had higher pedigrees. Comes back this year off of what looked like a really gruesome fractured ankle, but comes back this year and now is just tearing up Seahawks mini camps. Seattle is known for not caring about draft position, not caring about your salary, only letting the best players play. I do think Rashaad Penny will start, but I'm not sure he will be the every down guy as long as Chris Carson is healthy there. So yeah, Rashaad Penny was just a ridiculous, outrageous, maybe a worse pick than Saquon Barkley. I mean, probably not, but probably almost as bad of a pick considering all the holes that Seattle has, and wasting Russell Wilson's prime and everything in the context of it all was just an egregious pick. I have no idea why they did it.
Koff, what sort of fantasy player are you? Are you a Tyreek Hill man or are you a Larry Fitzgerald man?
I would say in recent years I would be more of a Larry Fitzgerald guy, but I think if we're talking 2018, I'd be more of a Tyreek Hill guy just because I'm sort of looking at age at that point. And a new quarterback there in Arizona. I don't know how long Fitzgerald can keep doing what he's been doing, even though it sort of seems like he's ageless. But I would veer toward Tyreek Hill at this point, even though I just don't trust that offense ever at all. You know, it feels like every week it's a different guy, which is all well and good if you're just a Chiefs fan. But if you're trying to have, whether it's him, I mean, Kelce's reliable, but whether it's Tyreek Hill, whether it's Kareem Hunt, who we talked about, and I think our last show, you know, you just don't totally know what to expect.
Yeah. I mean, if you take Larry Fitzgerald over Tyreek Hill, you probably have intercourse with like 4 condoms on. Like, you have to be willing to take some risk at some point. Larry Fitzgerald, like, you know, everybody's ageless until they're not. You know, and it's like he's going to fall off the cliff at some point. He keeps himself in amazing shape. I get it. But his average depth of target is so low. And it's just like, when it's going to go bad, it's going to go really bad for Larry Fitzgerald, I think.
If it's Bradford or Rosen, though, doesn't that work into his low ADOT?
Yeah. I don't know enough about how Josh Rosen's going to play at the professional level to think about where he'll be looking, but you would think that Larry Fitzgerald is a really good candidate to get a lot of targets from a rookie just because he's always going to run the right route. He's always going to be reliable, but I don't know, man. I mean, Josh Rosen struck me during the draft process as like a really thoughtful guy who probably looks at analytics and probably realizes how valuable deep passing is as well. So I don't know. I mean, either way, I'm not taking Larry Fitzgerald. That's the bottom line. I'm just not.
See, Levy has 2 kids, and I'm not even sure he enjoys having kids. He's counting. he's counting down the whole 18 years till he can send them off to college. You should be more of a Fitzgerald guy. Play it safe.
Yeah, before we get to college, we have this thing called summer camp here in Pennsylvania, where it's actually standard, which I didn't believe, but it's actually standard to send your kids to summer camp for literally 8 weeks, and you don't see them for 8 weeks. I mean,
starting at what age?
They start sending them around like 8, 9 years old, which is insane. Like, it's crazy to me. I grew up in Virginia, and we didn't have this on. I mean, we went to sports camps. We went to play basketball. These people send their kids to camp for 8. I mean, can you imagine what I would do with 8 weeks with no kids? It's going to be unbelievable. But yeah, that's way well before college, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you'd be much more in a Tyreek Hill situation. Maybe, the kids would come back and there'd be another one on the way.
Okay, well, I got to ask you guys that, because both you guys have kids. I don't. My wife went away for like 2 days, and it was just, it's the most, it's like the most peace that I've had in like 4 years. Like, I couldn't believe it. I stayed at home and watched all the shows that I like to watch.
Oh, and I don't know about you guys. My wife and I wonder as our marriage goes, it's a very happy marriage, but I wonder as our marriage goes along, like exactly how much we do have in common versus, in terms of like those core interests, like movies, TV shows like that. Like we don't watch any of the same TV shows at all.
Well, you got to get yourself, I mean, you're constantly, you're up at like 3 a.m., you're out till midnight covering all the teams. It's hard to be home. Like, I've just bit the bullet. I've just come to accept the fact that I like Bravo TV. I can watch some Housewives. I can watch some Vanderpump. In fact, I love Vanderpump Rules. I love Southern Charm. Now, I wouldn't have.
Would you still like them if you couldn't do a fantasy show about them?
I don't even do fantasy shows about those, but they're good.
Okay.
Like, there has to be a cross-off, and there's only so many shows that I can accept. But she watches everything, and really like big into like network TV, which I really can't do. So I've allocated like Elementary is the one that I'll watch with her. It seems to be the least bad of them all. But like, you gotta have some. Like, do you have one of those shows, Levy, that like you bite the bullet and watch, and now you're like kind of into secretly?
I actually don't watch much TV. I do have a question for Kaufman though. When you're having intercourse, do you ever accidentally yell out like Terry Rozier, like "Oh Terry," or like "Oh Al" for Al Horford or something like that? Does that ever happen?
Tell you what. The answer is obviously no, but it does remind me of a great story from back at Syracuse in college. A buddy of mine who wrote the newspaper was in the room across the hall, and I think maybe one of his first cover stories, something like that. It was quite frightening. And so,
cough 1 second. I'm sure this story is really good, but all I can hear
is the echo again?
Oh yeah, I can just hear you telling it like 86 times, and I can't make out a word. So I think this is a good time to get
save it for the next one.
Yeah, we'll save it for the next one. You can
good tease.
You can rehash it in episode 4 of the ADP with myself, Adam Levitan, and Adam Kaufman. Brought to you by Jägermeister, where you got to give your beer a real shot this summer with an ice cold shot of Jägermeister. Sounds delicious. You better do that. Plus, subscribe to the podcast so you can get the ongoing series. We try to cover every single meaningful player in terms of ADP overall. I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience!
On that note, by the way, just a regular league. So you got the quarterback, and then maybe you have another on the bench. Maybe you don't even bother until the bye week rolls around. Do you guys bother drafting that second backup quarterback in case of injury, in case of obviously that bye, or do you just load up in the other positions?
I'm going to try to disseminate that. You did ask us. You can just nod with this because we're now getting a crazy echo from you again there, Darth Vader.
Great.
So, do I draft backup quarterbacks and that kind of thing? Is that what you're asking? No, that is the absolute nod. Yeah, well, you can't keep talking if I said nod because we're still getting an echo.
I didn't know if the echo was still there.
It's saying you still have an echo. Calm down. All right. So, no, don't ever draft a backup quarterback in one of these leagues. That's stupid.
Experience!